is moving out of the Hype House along with a lot of other creators. So what exactly is going on here? We're going to take a closer look. I'm Gabby Conti.
I'm Brianna Walmart.
I'm Gina Rosenberg, and this is the Hollywire Tea Party. Got my tea, you guys. Let's spill it. Taylor Holder is moving out of the Hype House, which is crazy. He just announced this on Twitter that he's moving out of the Hype House officially, I believe this week. He tweeted, "I'm moving out," with a crying emoji. This should come as no surprise to fans, though, as recently Nick Bean spilled the tea to the Hollywood Fix at Saddle Ranch about what is going on with the Hype House. According to Nick, Tayler is moving out October 1st, which is tomorrow, and he has a really nice new house. The Lopez brothers are also leaving the Hype House. As Nick said, I don't know what the future of the Hype House is, honestly, but Thomas is really smart. Alex is really smart. I'm sure they'll figure it out, but it's looking a little bit grim. Nick went on to say, "It seems to me that all the members are kind of dispersing, so I don't know what's going to come with everything. Sway also dispersed, but it still seems like they're a group. I mean, it's 4 different houses, but it still feels the same." I agree. I feel like who cares if they move in and out? Like, I think especially for the guys, like the Sway boys will always be the Sway boys, you know? And then the Hype House people will always be the Hype House people. We saw this happen with the Clubhouse when the Clubhouse girls moved out. They were kind of like were like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore because I want to focus on my own brand. I will say, I'm interested to see what you guys think about this, but I will say, I feel like it's different for guys and girls in this matter. I don't know why, but it does feel like that. Like Daisy Keach wanted to do her own brand thing. Like I see Taylor Holder not really disaffiliating from the Hype House brand at all, but still building himself, you know?
Totally. I mean, you could argue the Sway House is like a fraternity, which is why they're so tight knit and they call each other brothers, and it just feels like really connected. And also that I feel like the guys in the Sway House, it seems like they really enjoy hanging out with each other, regardless. Right. Like they would be friends if they weren't in this house. Where the Hype House is a lot bigger, it's co-ed, there's people of all different ages, all different relationship statuses. They're coming from like all over. So I feel like in terms of like a community, I'm sure they have each other's back and they're there for each other. But do they have that that really tight bond that the Sway House is having, which is why the Sway House brand is staying strong versus the Hype House. But also another thing is like Hype House's brand, like what is it now? Like it's changed so much. We have so many different creators. I feel like the only original ones, and I could be wrong, are like our Alex and Thomas and Chase. Like other than that, like I feel like everyone else they've gotten new, they've lost people, like but they're still affiliated. It's very confusing.
Totally. It feels kind of more like go ahead.
Oh, you can finish your sentence. I'll finish after. Go for it.
I was just going to say it feels like a friend group. Like, you know, that's kind of, it just feels like a giant friend group.
Yeah. And I feel like with all of these like content houses, it's going to happen regardless. I mean, people do move on and I think it was Charlie Jordan that said, you know, in content houses, I think it was also in regards to her, like people, you know, they have their own brands already, or they're already having a following and that's what they want to pursue. Yeah. So these content houses are kind of like there for them to kind of make a brand for themselves. And I feel, you know, you can always be supportive of where you came from or, you know, whatever content house you came from. But I think it's like one of those things where, you know, you can just kind of take that platform that you gained from a content house and then kind of go on and do your own thing. Like I'm fully supportive of that. And I think, you know, I feel like that's just kind of how it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Charlie Jordan did say that. She actually said it in our interview here at Hollywire. She made a really good point though. She was like, I feel like with the content houses, it's like great because you kind of use each other. You're all in the same industry, you know, doing the same thing, and you use each other to build your platform. But you get to a certain point where you're like, I don't really need this anymore. Like I have all these crazy, exciting personal things going on for my personal brand. And honestly, I feel like that happened with Tayler. Like obviously he was huge before the Hype House, but now like we are more obsessed with him than ever. At least, I mean, maybe speak for myself, but I feel like the whole world like loves him so much now. They loved him being at the Hype House and they're going to support him when he leaves, you know?
Yeah.
Right. So maybe the Hype House is more of a place where it kind of helps you build your brand, and all the creators there have their own personal brand, which falls under the Hype House brand, which is mostly mainstream. Like it is more of a mainstream brand, I would say. And I feel like the Sway Boys, why people are like, oh, they think they're tighter than the Hype House, is yes, they're all really good friends and they still are friends even if they don't live in the same house. But the other thing is their brands are all super similar. Like Josh Richards' brand and Bryce Hall's brand are very compatible. They're different, but they're very, very compatible. Whereas at the Hype House, I feel like the brands are like all different, but they all are like under the same house. So maybe that's why people are comparing them in that way.
100%. I totally agree with that all the way.
Totally. Okay, so then Hype House member Nate Wyatt, he cut in to Nick Bean talking to the Hollywood Fix to set the record straight as to what was going on at the Hype House by saying, quote, "We're all still making content. We're a family that will never change. We might be going to different houses, but we're still the Hype House. We're still going to collab. We are all close and we are all still the Hype House, just different houses." But Nick Bean wasn't buying it. As he told Fletcher, it's now Hype Houses and it's over. A big reason as to why members are moving out is perhaps they're growing up and they don't want roommates anymore, no matter how nice the house is, like Alex Warren and Cover, who are apparently buying a house, which to Nick and Nate made sense because the couple is, quote, practically married.
You know, I feel like Nick Bean really spilled some beans here. Like,
he is a little drunk. I also will say that. He definitely had one of those monster drinks that they have at Saddle Ranch. So he was definitely a little drunk during the interview. And even Fletcher was like trying to get him off. But, you know, they do say a drunk man's words is a sober man's thought.
Sober man's thought.
And I think a lot of fans might have not even heard this interview, because even when Fletcher was interviewing Nick Bean, and you could hear Nick Bean's audio and you kind of see his arm, his camera, which is bringing us to our next point, is on Tayler Holder and Charlie Jordan being super cute, super cuddly. I mean, Charlie looks like she's basically on Taylor's lap. So even though if you listen to the audio, it's Nick spilling all this tea, but I don't think anyone listened to that because we're just looking at how adorable Tayler and Charlie are.
This is so true. And I feel like we are obviously going to get into Tayler and Charlie's blossoming relationship. But just to touch a little more on what Nick Bean said, you know, it's really crazy. Like, I didn't even realize. I listened to the audio and I was like, wait, this is like him basically being like, this might be the end of an era, in the sense of like Alex Warren, he's a major, I would say like organizer, manager of the Hype House along with Thomas Petro. Everyone's only getting older, and like Alex and Cover, like they're gonna like want to have their own life soon. And I think Taylor's a little bit older than a lot of the people in the Hype House and a lot of the TikTok stars. Taylor's, I want to say like 22, maybe 23, 23, I think. But anyways, the point is, like, the older you get, you don't want to be in a house with like 5 people, you know, like every year in your 20s is so crazy. Like you grow so much and you just want your own space, and you want to like, you know, grow up like into your adulthood on your own, not surrounded by a million people with a million different ideas and like waking up at different times and whatnot. So maybe this is the end of the Hype House in the Hollywood Hills. But it will be cool to see what they do content wise, how they will still come together. Because I do know they will, you know, no matter where they live. But Nick Bean seemed like he was real concerned, though. I'm not going to lie. And you think like being part of it like that, he'd just be only speaking, you know, a little more like positively about it. But alcohol, don't do it.
I mean, I'm thinking like it definitely, he looked like and then there were 2 girls that came up to him at one point being like, "You're taking all our man's time up." Like there was something else going on Nick Bean's night that night. But back to your point about like, I feel like, yes, in your 20s, each year in your 20s feels like a year closer and closer to finally living in that studio apartment, or, you know, settling with someone where you have a place of your own, which is what Alex and Cover did. And also a lot of the things in your 20s which prevents you from leaving alone is you don't have the financial means. But these influencers are getting richer and richer by the day. So yeah, they could afford to get their own house, or even at the very least get their own studio apartment, or like, you know, condo somewhere. So I do think that is part of it. And I also think that I don't know if it's the end of the Hype House, because I have a feeling that the Hype House, in a way, if the Sway House is like a frat and they're brothers forever. To me, the Hype House has become almost a university or a college. And so I feel like what Thomas and Alex are going to keep doing is they're going to keep bringing in these younger talents and grooming them until they get to a place where they have their own platform, and then they're going to go off and do their own thing, much like what happened with the D'Amelio sisters and Addison Rae. That's just my prediction.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally. Brianna, this is interesting for you because you are a senior, or you just graduated, actually. I'm sorry. I know this. You just graduated.
No, you're good.
Can you imagine, like, put yourself in these kids' shoes that are your age? How would you feel about joining the Hype House or the Clubhouse or whatever, you know, it may be?
Yeah, well, first off, I would definitely not complain about the opportunity because I am just, you know, just a normal Joe, but I would love it. But I also, like, I lived in my sorority house for about a year, and like, for the year being, I loved it. But as you get older, I couldn't imagine kind of being in that same environment all the time. And like, I definitely agree with people that, you know, lived in the Hype House and they want to kind of just get their own little space. Like, as long as they're still being like true to themselves and building content and whatnot, like, go for it. Cause you can only do that for so long. And, you know, everyone deserves their own privacy. Everyone gets some normalcy. And so I don't know. I would probably only be able to do it for so long.
Exactly.
I feel like that's just, that's normal. And I think that's a totally like okay statement to make. You can't like set unrealistic expectations for these people that we look up to, that are in the limelight. So that's just my take on it. But, you know, and I totally agree with Gabby also with bringing in younger people and just kind of like reeling them out and just, you know, like, I think that's a great idea, a great business move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, just to kind of, you know, capitalize on that, I think maybe Tayler Holder wants some more personal space because he's growing up and maybe finding himself in a relationship. So speaking of that, Tayler Holder and Charlie Jordan have been all over each other since Charlie came home from Africa. Recently, Tayler tweeted, "I'm a simp," which is obviously about his feelings for Charlie. Then Tayler and Charlie were caught sitting super close to each other at Saddle Ranch. And at one point, Tayler kissed Charlie on the cheek. This was the cutest moment. Then Tayler commented on a video of him kissing Charlie on the cheek by saying, "Just look at her, like how?" with a heart emoji and a monkey covering his eyes emoji. Then there was a picture recently of Bryce and Charlie smoking. I think this was for Charlie's Smoke Roses brand. And Bryce tagged Tayler in the shot and captioned the pic, "I swear it's just for the pics, Tayler." So,
oh man,
it's so funny to me because this is clearly a thing. Like, I mean, Charlie and Tayler are like obviously dating, and probably more like realistically dating than sorry Bradison shippers than like Bryce and Addison ever were, or Noah and Dixie ever were. I mean, they are out. There's no question about it. Obviously, there's the question that we get with a lot of these creators is, do they have the title? Did he pop the question and ask to be, you know, his girlfriend? But I mean, this relationship does seem fairly new. We know they've been seen together and hanging out together since Taylor's birthday party, but we've seen them one-on-one only since Charlie has come back from Africa, which has been like a week or so. But you could say that this relationship dates back to a couple of months ago when Tayler Holder was spotted with Summer Rae for a while, and then all of a sudden Tayler was spotted with Charlie, and like it looked like a friend thing, but it seemed like Summer knew more, and she ended things with Tayler very publicly and made a lot of drama about it. So it kind of makes sense as to why maybe she always knew, maybe Tayler has always had a crush on Charlie. Maybe this was a long flirtation and coming, and finally they're at a place where they can be together, which is just beautiful. I love it.
You guys, I think I have some tea to spill in this Hollywire tea party. Because so when Charlie was here in the Hollywire studio, she had mentioned how she talked about Tayler a little bit, and she mentioned how they met in this group trip to Texas that happened months ago. I don't know if you guys remember this, but beginning of, or I guess middle of quarantine, a lot of the TikTok stars went to Texas, got a cool Airbnb.
Bryce got arrested?
Yes, this was the same trip Bryce got arrested.
So that would have been like late April, early May. It was like right around when the protests were happening.
Exactly. So that's Charlie noted. That's when she initially kind of met Tayler, was hanging out with Tayler. I'm sure there were some sparks flying. However, he came back from Texas and we saw him with Summer, and that was like a thing. But I'm sure something was said about Charlie in that way, because as we also, if you guys can recall, Summer got really mad when Charlie and Tayler were spotted at lunch together. And at first I was like, hey, it's a little dramatic, like chill, that's kind of crazy. But now I feel like there was a reason why she got so upset. And fast forward months later, because look at them now. So the girl's never crazy, okay?
The girls are never crazy, and they always know. I feel like when you are dating someone, you know which girls are like safe for your guy to be with and which girls are threats. And it's not like a woman hating women thing. It comes down to like, maybe your guy had mentioned how cute this girl is. You see how they are together. He isn't treating her like a friend. He's treating her like someone that he's interested in. Or maybe, this is the big thing, maybe she's so similar to you and she has all the things that you have, personality wise, look wise, etc. So it is a threat when he's like with her, because you're like, that's basically me. How could you not be attracted to her? She is basically like me.
Absolutely. That's so true. I feel like Tayler and Charlie are also just like a lot alike. Like,
yes,
in a weird way, they're complete opposite, but like they're a lot alike. Like I see them together so much more than I see him with Summer. And I think that's just the best for both of them, for all parties involved, you know?
Totally.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you just said, Jana, about you seeing him a lot better with Charlie than Summer. For some reason, I can't put like my finger on like what it actually is, but I think they're so cute together. And you know, the paparazzi videos of, you know, them being all cutesies and whatnot. I love that. And I think I've said this before. Tayler is like one of those guys where he's been like vocal about wanting a relationship, and like he's always like been like that. And so I would never like, I feel like in that industry, people are like, oh, we're a thing, we're just pals, like this. But you know, whenever that time may be for Tayler, like he will for sure put like a title on it, with whoever that may be. But I'm definitely rooting for them too, because they are so so cute. Yeah, I followed Charlie for so long, and I'm really happy that she's like, I don't know, I'm so jealous of her. He's so freaking cute.
I know. I'm obsessed with Tayler Holder. I feel like I've said that a lot awkwardly in interviews to people that he's very close with. I'm like, he is so hot, and the people I'm interviewing are like, okay, chill. But I also love Charlie, and I have such a girl crush on her. Like, I feel like they're a power couple, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're so great. I also will say, Brianna, back to your point about how Tayler seems like someone who likes to be in relationships. I do think there's two types of people. There's someone who is more of a serial monogamous, and there's someone who's more of a serial dater. So I think Tayler Holder is more of a serial monogamous, meaning that if he's in a relationship, it's monogamous, or he's by himself, and he's really not pursuing anyone. Or if you're a serial dater, you're just like, you know, you're open to anyone and anything, which I would argue might follow under like Bryce Hall. Like, you know, he was with Addison, and then he's with this other girl giving him a lap dance. And now like, is he with Tessa? Like there's always some love interest with Bryce. And I think Bryce is the happiest being single, where Tayler, I feel like probably is looking for a significant other, like you just said, Brianna.
He's a good old Texas boy, you know? Like, I mean, Charlie said it when she was here, and it's so true. I feel like I completely agree with that. I had like something on the tip of my tongue that was imperative to the statement. It'll come back to me. Let's keep it moving.
Oh, you know, I'm looking at the comments right now, and I don't know if this person was talking to the other people in the comments or if this was a question for us, but I do want to answer this because this is something that we see a lot with TikTokers. This person asked, do you all have advice on being body shamed? And I feel like we see this all the time because, like, you know, Charlie's been body shamed, Dixie's been body shamed. And it is something that, like, I mean, Jana, you and I get shamed for being too old in the comments all the time. And it definitely, like, to say it doesn't, like, eat at us and it doesn't, like, you know, that it doesn't affect us would be lying. So, you know, I just want to say to you who's asking about what advice on to being body shamed, I think the biggest thing to do is, like, you know, obviously ignore the haters and know that when people are commenting on that, it's not really critiquing you. It's more because they're insecure about themselves and their own bodies, and they're projecting that. And so, you know, do everything you can to give yourself as much love and to make yourself feel good. And if that is, you know, blocking the comments, that's what I would do. I don't know if you girls have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not one way to look. I always, you know what I say to myself when I see people say things about me or about my friends online or whatever, It's just, you have to know what, when, and how you're your best self. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
that's just like the way you feel in your skin is the only thing that matters. Those people don't even know what, you know, you go through on a daily basis. So I just feel like however you feel healthiest, just like own that and just know that like everyone else is going to have a different opinion always anyways. So like you're either to this or to that. There's never someone that's like, wow, this. So yeah, just know how you are healthiest and own that. And yeah, I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful
And
advice.
yeah. And going off the whole healthy thing, I mean, everyone is different. Like it's just,
Yeah.
it literally, there's no like certain weight. There's no anything that's like that perfect type. And that's really unfortunate. And I always am super sad how social media can portray this ideal body type, which is so unrealistic. And it just makes me angry because I see it like firsthand, you know, just how it affects people. And it's so easier said than done with kind of trying to like give tips about how to kind of ignore the haters. But yeah, it is kind of at the end of the day, just learning self-love and just trying to put yourself in their shoes and how it is an insecurity. And I also think talking about it kind of will help as well. And, you know, just talking to like your mom or your friends, and just, it'll kind of just help you. And yeah, just try to forget the bullies because we're not here for that.
You're not here for that. So I
No.
hope that answered your question. I know she's very excited in the chat that we answered her question. So, and that's what we are here for, guys. So if you have any questions while we're doing the lives about the story or about advice, like send it our way because we want to help you. We love you guys and we love that you watch us. Okay, so moving back to the whole Hype House drama, Taylor Holder, all that stuff. So Taylor is not the first person to leave the Hype House. Also, recently, Olivia Ponton did an interview where she said that she was moving out of the Hype House as well. It seems like Olivia is moving out when rent is due, which is tomorrow, October 1st, same as Taylor. As she said, quote, I think me and a few of the other creators are moving out to another house a little bit further away just because of everything that's happening here at one time, which is awesome just to be around totally motivated mindset. Everyone here is very nice and was very welcoming to me, which I cannot appreciate enough. So it looks like there's no bad blood between the creators who are leaving, but Little Huddy seems to be sad that he's losing his housemates, as he recently posted on his Instagram stories a series of shots at various spots at the Hype House with text like, I'm empty inside. What is my worth here? What is my purpose? Why do I feel so alone? Which is like, but we know he is, what does he call himself? An e-boy?
E-boy.
Yeah, so we know he's an e-boy, so this does feel on brand for him. But, you know, I think also we should be aware of this. This is maybe him opening up about his mental health, about how he's feeling. Maybe he's battling depression. And so definitely sending Little Huddy some love. And I'm sure change is hard. And watching people that live with having roommates move in and out has to get really stressful.
I couldn't do that, you guys. Like, change is so difficult for me. I don't know if any of you watching feel this way, but like, I like moved out recently with my two best friends who I've lived with for 3 years. And that was so hard. I was like, wait, a new chapter. So Lil Huddy, I feel you. I like feel for him. I saw his post about that and I was like, gosh, I just think anytime change happens around you, it's like really difficult on like literally the human body. Like your insides are like, wait, what's going on? So I totally feel for him. I think Lil Huddy hasn't really hit his stride yet. I don't. Like, I think Chase Hudson, he got super famous super quick. And at the beginning, he was like that TikTok guy that everyone was so obsessed with. And we still are. But I'm saying, I just feel like there's just so much more in store for him. Like when he did his interview at Hollywire, he talked about how he wanted to do music. He had like a guy group possibly forming that never happened. I feel like he hasn't like hit his stride with the kind of content he wants out there. You know, he doesn't fit that like Taylor Holder, Bryce Hall mold. He really doesn't. Or even Noah Beck, whom he's hanging out with all the time because of the D'Amelio sisters. So I just feel like in a way, even though all this change is happening, I hope he can take a step back and be like, maybe this is like what is necessary for me to focus on what I need to do for my future and like his own brand. You know, I feel like in a way, a content house, like his time is almost maybe up at a content house too. But he did say in a paparazzi video, he was like, hype for life. Like if I could stay there forever, I would. So very interesting.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that also could explain why him and Charlie are hanging out a lot, because maybe he's been feeling down and depressed about this move. And Charlie's like, let me be there for you as a friend, which, you know, what she says about let's normalize exes hanging out with each other. Perhaps she's just being there as a support for him right now. And there's nothing more to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, I could not imagine. My friend just moved away to college and I didn't live with her. And I'm like so sad about it. And she doesn't even live that far. Like her school's not even this far, but I couldn't imagine just, when you're always surrounded by people, you
Yeah.
become somewhat dependent on them and then they become family. And it's just like, if they move out, and even if there's no bad blood, whether they're, like another chapter, it is difficult. And so I totally feel for him on that. And yeah, it's rough. But going on the whole, mental health thing, whatever, when he's saying like what's his worth, what's his purpose, I think this is a great time to really, instead of being surrounded by a bunch of people, kind of focus on himself and what his needs and his wants are, and like to just see like what he wants to do with his future. And yeah, but I couldn't imagine. That seems super, super hard and difficult to go through.
Totally. And
Frequently.
I think we will
Yeah.
be seeing more with little Huddy. I feel like definitely keep an eye
Oh,
on
yeah.
him. Especially, I feel like his music career would be amazing once it takes off. But we want to know, what do you guys think about what's going on with the Hype House? Do you think this is the end of the Hype House, or are they just moving on for their own individual chapters? And what do you think about Charlie Jordan and Taylor Holder? Do you ship them? We for sure do over here. Let us know. I'm Gabby Conti.
I'm Brianna Walmart.
I'm Jana Rosenberg, and follow us here at Hollywire for your 24/7 celebrity news right here on the Hollywire Tea Party. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.